Hello and welcome to In the Spotlight with Quocirca, the definitive podcast on digital disruption in the print industry. I'm Louella Fernandes, Director of Quocirca, and today I'm joined by Martin Janus, CEO of MyQ. So welcome, Martin. It's great to have you on the show today.
Hi, Louella. Thank you for having me here today, and thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we've got a lot to cover today. We want to really focus on cloud printing, which we've covered in quite a few podcasts, but I know MyQ has got a slightly different approach. So maybe you could start off with by telling us a bit about the MyQ history and also about your role at MyQ.
Okay, so I would say that my history concretely is quite long because it started somewhere in 1992 when I entered the high school. And I've met my two important colleagues who are working with me up to date, and it's Radek and Jakub, and they are basically my co-founders of MyQ, together with two other guys. And in the high school, it was really we had really fun there because it was a programming high school. It was focused on programming. And a lot of subjects were really boring, so we were always using some time to create some programs on anything what was possible. In the time, there were no laptops and powerful phones or whatever, so we were able to program even the calculator. So we created very nice demo on the calculator just in the time. So it was really funny. On the other hand, my father established a company. He founded a Janus company, which was a Quocirca distributor in Czech Republic. And basically, my career started there. If I'm not counting 3 months on the McDonald's, where I needed to create some money for the gasoline. So my real career started in the Janus company, when I started to do the programming for my father. So we started with ERP system, etc., etc. And since we were distributing the Quocirca devices, we started to play with some small solutions, which could improve the reports, graphic reports of big banks here in Czech, etc., etc. And in the end of 90s, we came with some new solution, which was especially focused on securing print documents. It was a very basic solution based on the reading barcodes, etc. But it was our first attempt, which started to resonate to our customers. And after 7 or 8 years, with all our attempts, we established a new team, MyQ team, and we created our first version of MyQ solution, which was brand independent, and which was our first real enter to this business.
Yeah, that's great to hear that history, because I think MyQ only really came, I guess, on my radar a few years ago, and it's really because of the type of marketing communications you do, which I think is brilliant in this industry, the superhero kind of comic strip type of approach. And I think it's great because it's a very traditional and conventional type industry, and it really, makes you stand out. And I was just curious, in terms of that approach you're taking, does that really signify the philosophy of the company in terms of its approach it's taken there with its marketing efforts?
Yeah, I think this belongs to my first marketing campaign, which was invented still in the Janus company. And it was somewhere 2006 or 2007 when I started to be responsible also for the marketing and management of the company. And I hired or I started to have a relationship with a very unique graphic designer. And we always spend a lot of time, talking how we want to express our idea and how we would like to sell our idea to the audience. And in the time, usually we bought some space on the magazines, etc., etc. So they were not so popular online advertisement, etc. And we found that there were a lot of boring advertisements, corporate advertisements, with those faces from the databases. So you could see the same face with different companies. And we were thinking how to be unique, how to be different. And since we were responsible in the time for Japanese goods, we started our first campaign with the Japanese manga characters, or manga characters. And so we expressed our idea, through those characters, and we always came with some small, let's say, comics, which started with some pain, and finally, in the end, were some solution. And we found that it was really unique in the magazine. We received a lot of positive feedback. And somehow such an approach coexists with us until today. So we just introduced the superheroes with the MyQ, but we are still using this different design, which is maybe not the typical conventional, as you told. But on the other hand, it also represents what I'm saying, that it's always good if you are able to create fun in something you really need to do. So you can search, for fun, or you can search for something you like to go, you like to do. But much more efficient is to find something, some fun in something which you really need to do. It's much more efficient, and you don't need to check the position or company or whatever. So
the print industry, as I say, it's very traditional and legacy focused, and it's interesting that's come from the Japanese manga style of comics, because obviously a lot of the print industry's heritage is in Japan, and I think it's a really good juxtaposition of traditional and the modern. So I think it's great, and for the audience, if anyone hasn't seen the MyQ Showtime video, I really recommend you watch that, because it's a really great way of introducing the MyQ Roger platform. So that leads us on quite nicely in terms of your strategy now. Obviously there's a lot happening in the cloud market in general, but particularly now we're seeing a lot more vendors releasing print solutions and document capture solutions. So could you maybe tell us a bit about your views on how cloud printing and capture has changed perhaps over the past year, and what your strategy is moving forward?
Yeah. I think especially this definition of true cloud solutions is getting really, really messy or unclear, to ordinary people. And we found it, especially when we were thinking how to approach or how to create something in the cloud, because we simply didn't want to push or move our previous or still current premium products to the cloud. We wanted to invent something new, which will really use new technologies, new possibilities based on those technologies. And that's why we were probably not the first one who started to be really active on the cloud. But I'm still thinking that we are really unique with our approach. But what happened with our current or previous product, when we launched MyQ Roger, we needed to find a new name for our first product, premium product. So that's why our current MyQ is now named like a MyQ X. And it doesn't mean that it's something which ended. It's still ongoing, and we are still investing a lot of resources, to improve it and come with some new features. But MyQ Roger was for us something where we can start from the scratch. So our approach, or when we started to talk to our customers, we told them, so now is the year 2020. We are in the real pandemic year. Everything is different. There are totally different habits, how we can work. We are facing to new regulations. We can't work where we were used to work. So we need to adapt, to those regulations, and we simply need to start to work from home or from different places. And this was something different or this job basically was not properly covered by our MyQ X product, because MyQ X started in 2007, as I told, and the main purpose was to secure jobs, to improve the office environment, especially to save costs. Later, we started to save time, because we were focused, to bring something new to the people, to the users, to real users. So they were able to use a lot of things, how to optimize their workflows, their activities on the printer, etc., etc. but usually everything was based on the office equipment. And in 2020, we found that you can be simply locked at home and you are alone, because there is no IT desk available. They are not able to listen to your needs, because a lot of people in the same time were locked at home. So we found that there is a new challenge, or there could be a new challenge or new opportunity for a product if we are able to provide some solution which you will be able to adjust by yourself. So you will be able to configure how you want to use it, what's your daily tasks, how those tasks changed at your home office, etc., etc. And when we put all those inputs, to our heads, we really found totally new vision, which we implemented in our MyQ Roger. And important thing is that we are not calling it as a printing or scanning solution. We found even wider name, which is the Smart Digital Workplace Assistant.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, because the digital workplace assistant, I think, encapsulates more than just print and capture, and it covers, I guess, the home and the office print environment. So would you say there are any particular features or capabilities which differentiate it from other vendors in the market?
So the first very important difference is that we are calling our solution true cloud solution, which means that we prohibit ourselves, to use some laptops or workstations or even servers. This was the first mandatory thing, which is quite normal with our MyQ X solution, where you can install it on-premise server, you can install it on private cloud server, you can install it on your workstations somewhere in the reception, but you always need to install it. Our new product, MyQ Roger, the first mandatory thing was that you don't need to install it. So you will just activate it somewhere by the subscription, and you will start to use it. How? So today, I think everybody's equipped with the smartphone. So it's a little bit old-fashioned, to start somewhere on the web browser, or to start with the installation of some agent on your local network. Our view was that you should start through this mobile phone. So when you subscribe yourself or your company, your users are able to start to work with MyQ Roger through the mobile phone, which represents our concept mobile first. So everything you need to do or you want to do and you want to configure should be configurable through your smartphone, because smartphone is always with you and it's very intuitive. That's why our most effort or investments are coming to the development of our mobile applications. This is really different. So we invested a lot of time, to create our mobile apps very intuitive, to add a lot of untraditional features, because we are known with that sometimes we are coming with something which is really not known by the market. And our MyQ Roger mobile app is definitely the example of our effort. So you have plenty of cool features like voice assistant and scanning by camera, and a lot of things which are not directly connected with the printing and scanning business, but it's helping you to work more efficiently, and it's helping you to keep your comfort from the office everywhere where you need to do your tasks.
So you're very much taking a kind of mobile first, cloud first type approach from a sort of an app perspective. So does that mean that the fact that you're focusing on this workplace productivity, that you'll be developing features outside of print and capture as well, in terms of general office productivity?
Yeah, exactly. That currently we are, of course, implementing first features which are helping you with the printing and scanning. but our vision is basically focused on improvement of the efficiency of users. So we want to be a tool which will help them, to transform their traditional workplaces into new modern digital workplaces where they can increase their efficiency, where they can have better flexibility or adaptability to anything what is coming. So if there is some pandemic, you are able to restore basically your office desk in your home. When we will be able to travel, you will be able to do it in any kiosk in the airport or wherever when is the internet connection and where is some appropriate device. And where is no device, we are helping you to guide you that it's also possible to scan without the printer, and you can use the same workflows. The same icons you used on the MFP through your mobile phone, and when you don't have a printer around you, you can just replace the scanner from the printer by your camera. So this is one of the example, and in a longer period, we will assist basically to standard common people to work more efficiently or to combine their already purchased products in a better way. So, for example, typical example is Office 365. I think majority of people already migrated to the Office 365. So they are using Word and Excel based on the subscription, but maybe a lot of people are using still those two products, maybe together with the Outlook or PowerPoint, in the, let's say, traditional way. And we are here sometimes to recommend them that there are plenty of other solutions which can simplify their workflows or their activities. So when we can recognize what they are doing, we can inspire them what to do better, and we can tell them about some other solutions which are well integrated with us and which can help them in their daily tasks.
So just out of interest then, because you mentioned that the sort of broader workplace productivity functionality that you potentially will be building in. So does that mean you work quite closely with Microsoft for their sort of broader marketplace, whether it's around Azure or the Office apps and so on? Are you seeing that as an opportunity to build a broader customer base?
Yeah, so our cloud technology is based on the Microsoft Azure. So we are a little bit closer to Microsoft than to others. On the other hand, I'm not saying that we are not integrating our product with, for example, Google services, etc., etc. So we are just starting from some source, and we are moving, through all the common platforms. So currently we are closer to the Microsoft. On the other hand, for us, is much more important marketplace on iPhones like App Store or Google Play, because as I told, our first mandatory approach is to go through the mobile first concept. So that's why for us it's important to have a very intuitive application there. And through this application, we are then able to communicate with our cloud infrastructure, with Office infrastructure. We are able to integrate many other platforms, and everything can start with one easy button on our digital assistant, digital workplace assistant. So by one click, you can do a lot of complicated actions. So for in the future, we will adopt a lot of features from MyQX product. So you will be able, for example, to scan the documents through the camera, then to call some cloud product which will convert the document to editable form, and then we will deliver this form to some other solution which will provide you through all the workflows and acceptance, etc., etc. And finally, it will end in some endpoint, which can be electronic archive or DMS or whatever.
Yeah, so it's great to hear how it's kind of moving beyond the print to the kind of workflow and document capture. So can you share any customer examples of perhaps what were their reasons or the challenges that they were facing in that traditional print and document environment, and why they chose MyQ, and what kind of customers are using it at the moment?
So currently, we were quite surprised by the demand from co-working spaces, because it's a typical customer or maybe partner for us who is renting their workplaces, their offices to different companies, and it means that they have some hardware, means table, printers, lights, whatever. And different companies are coming there for 1 hour, for 1 day, for a weekend, doesn't matter. They are probably sitting someday on the first floor, then on the third floor, and they always need to restore their activities where they ended the last day and started to do something new in the same way. So they don't want to study that, okay, here's different printer, different model. They don't want to install different drivers, etc., and lost, let's say, 1 hour just by reconfiguration of their devices. And MyQ Roger is especially designed for such a purpose. So by just login the printer and all the equipment which is supported by MyQ Roger can be immediately adjusted to their personal wishes, and they can basically do all the tasks as they are used to.
So in terms of, because we sort of mentioned at the beginning that you were very much focused on MyQ Roger being a true cloud solution. So what are your views on what's happening in the cloud printing market at the moment? What do you think are the challenges for the industry? And just really interested to hear your thoughts on the market, which is seems to be growing quite rapidly.
Yeah. I think now everybody is waiting what will happen after the pandemic, but nobody knows when the pandemic will really end. But I already read a lot of statistics that the printing volume is restoring, and that companies are starting to print again. So it's we can be all happy, especially those who are selling toners and consumables, because the business is coming again. On the other hand, maybe we are facing just to the last wave because the people are coming back to the office. They are maybe doing the same things what they did before the pandemic, but there was 1 or 2 years of something different, and we found that a lot of things can be done in a true digital form. So we don't need to print it. We don't need to even scan it. We can just work with the digital form. So for something, paper is still important, but many activities we found that were even more intuitive or more easy to be processed in a digital form. And also it's the same in public institutions. We have a lot of references in the government institutions and public sector. And so even in the pandemic, we saw that in some industries, basically the printing volume was even the same or even higher. If we see the police stations and whatever, so they were still generating a lot of printouts. But we saw that country per country, something what was not even thinkable in the past started to be a standard. So they started to the public sector started to communicate with you through the email without special signatures and a lot of things, because it was the only way how to communicate, since we couldn't visit them, they couldn't visit us. So we saw that it was possible. Cars started to be sold, through the e-shop. It's a specific thing, but on the other hand, this specific things finally was solved by special services which can provide you that the car was properly checked instead of you. And if you can believe to such a partner, then you don't need to go to the big place with a lot of cars anymore, because with this new trust and new experience, it's the same difficult like you want to order a new laptop. So a lot of things, I think we found that it's possible. And this is now maybe very dangerous or very challengeable for our industry, because big change can come in the next years. So I don't think so that something really happened this year or next year, but I think that this wave of restoring of printing volumes can be such a thing we are doing just intuitively because we were used to do it, but maybe in a few months or years we will find that it's totally not necessary, and we will be much more productive, effective, and I'm even happy if we drastically or dramatically changed our behavior, because it will be simply possible, because the public institutions and companies will be able to find a new normal, where they can communicate.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it can be a challenge and an opportunity. And I think it's still early days when we think about people going back to the office and what's going to give them trust and being confident in going back to the office, and how those offices are reconfigured. And will there still be opportunities to print? But at the same time, like you say, we've got so used to working digitally and, digital signatures and so on. And it may be that many of us are more accustomed to that way of working, and going back to the office, we may carry on, printing less. So I think it's still to be seen whether, office print volumes recover and if they ever reach, pre-COVID levels again. But, like you say, it's still on that journey. So, so I think that's a challenge, not only for the OEMs, but also for the channel partners, and how they have different conversations with their customers as well around digitization. And, I think cloud has absolutely been key to helping those organizations stay operational, and, having cloud printing, offers so many, benefits. You mentioned about, MyQ product being, activated without needing IT support. And that's a huge benefit for any cloud printing solution. So, I guess we'll wait and see how things pan out. So was there anything else? I mean, we've covered quite a lot. So, and you mentioned some of the additional capabilities that you were planning to offer, but what's next for MyQ in terms of the overall company strategy? And I know you're present in many regions, but maybe you could give us some an idea on what's next for the company.
So as we now have those two babies, one small baby and one almost adult, we have several plans with those products. With MyQ X, we are now planning a huge redefinition or improvement of its core engine, and it will be closer and closer to be also centrally managed from the cloud. So it means for our customers that all the features we have in the premium product, which is thousands of features and settings and whatever, will be possible to be configured through the cloud. And then it will be possible to be run in the hybrid environment. So you will be able to install some servers. You will be able to work even without servers. You will be able to work with some agents, etc., etc. Everything what we have will move there. We are also preparing something very, very new, and it's the total active approach with this solution, which was missing in our MyQ X product. So this is quite intensive development, and I think there will be a big launch in the next 12 months. With MyQ Roger, we just started in December last year, so we are in the real beginning. We are really excited by a lot of positive feedbacks and a lot of new ideas which came back from our first early adopters or early eagles. We are calling them early eagles from our partners and their customers. It was really amazing journey. We really created this product as a new startup inside this company, which was also totally new to us because we didn't want to just develop a second product somewhere in this company. So we created a dedicated team of dedicated programmers, and it's much more faster and much more agile. We are not, controlled by the QA and a lot of other departments which are mandatory for a big product as MyQX is. But we were able, to be much more faster, and we could play with or implement with a lot of new ideas just on the way. So we were able, to put new things in terms of weeks and months, which already happened. So what we plan on the January is totally different. What we have already today, we implemented a lot of new integrations, and what is important for me that we verified our concept, which is something totally new, and now we are adding the accounting things, etc., which were asked by many previous customers because they were used, to work with the reports. So currently they found a way that they can use our MyQX product for accounting, monitoring, and all the features, and MyQ Roger for their home offices or for some small branches where they didn't intend to install any server or whatever. So those products are going to be closer and closer. And it's even logical that MyQ Roger will be somehow also integrated with MyQX like any other third-party product. So if you are already equipped with this heavy product, you will be able, to integrate some features or provide some new features through the MyQ Roger, and you don't need to let's say add or create new users or set up a lot of things because it will be simply used from the MyQX. So MyQ Roger is really open to a lot of new integrations. We are now working with some of our new partners who would like to integrate their small products in our cloud platform, which is basically what we can really offer to the market, because it's a quite heavy job, to create something which is multi-tenant, which is secured, which is using a lot of industry standards. We are on the public cloud, so it could be easily hacked or somehow misused if we are not fulfilling all the conditions. So it's not the same way like to create some web page or like to create some desktop application, which is normally used by one single user on one single laptop or minimally inside a company. We are now facing to the global reach, and it means that we must be much more careful. And such a platform is now ready, and our partners can simply just upload the output of their local solutions, so they can focus themselves just to create some analytics locally, and then we can help them with this cloud platform to use those data and to distribute those data through the sophisticated reports and do some amazing things with this. So
yeah, it's great to hear actually, because I think it really comes across that MyQ is a very innovative startup culture approach that it's really using. And the fact that you mentioned with MyQ that you've got a separate team to the MyQX products, I suppose that gives you the opportunity to really add new features very quickly and also customize the product. So it's great to hear that. And I think, just generally in this industry, there's a real need for innovation, and that's, the software is where it comes from. So I guess you're providing the innovation opportunity for your OEM partners. So, it's great, to hear that, and I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation today. So just on a final note, I know you're based in the Czech Republic. So do you have any plans to travel post-pandemic?
Yeah, this is concretely very nice question, because since we were locked, at our country for 1 or 2 years, I started to feel really comfortable here. And I found that I don't need to travel to see even the sea, because we have a river here and we are able to swim here, etc., etc. No, definitely. our plans are not set up because we don't know what will be possible in the summer. Now it looks really good. So if it is possible, we are planning to go to the Hungary because I promised to my kids to see Formula One there. So we saw some new movies on the Netflix. We know everything now about F1. So now we want to see it in person. So if this is possible, this will be the first, let's say, private trip. And as a business trip, teams are here. So again, why to travel? But I didn't see a long time my Japanese colleagues. So if it is possible, I will probably fly to Japan or America. But currently, we need to respect all the regulation and things. What will be possible?
Yeah, of course. That sounds good. I think we're all waiting to be able to leave our countries. But like you say, it's also been an opportunity to discover what we can do in our own countries. So that was great. Well, thanks ever so much for your time. It's great to, as I say, hear all about MyQ. And, I wish you all the best on the next superhero journey. It's great to follow what you're doing. So thanks again for joining me today, Martin.
Thank you so much, and stay safe, and I hope that everything will be improved.
So thank you for joining in the Spotlight with Quocirca. For more information, please go to quocirca.com and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks again for joining, and I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.